Hey there, it's Nick. While Alan is on paternity leave, congrats, Alan, join us in watching episodes from The Greatest Adventure, Stories from the Bible. It's the cartoon that Adam constantly references, was made by Hanna-Barbera, and has some surprising voice casting. This week, we're talking Jonah, which you can find on Amazon, Google Play, or YouTube for free. Welcome to the King James Virgin, where each and every week my friends Alan and Adam recount Bible stories from their childhoods to me. I've never heard them before. My name is Nick.
And I'm Adam.
And forget that you heard that intro because we are not doing a Bible story that I have not heard before.
That's true. And Alan is not here. So.
Correct. So we should just rewrite that. I don't know why I said these words. But hello, welcome. The teacher is gone.
Yep. Yeah. Alan had a baby all by himself and is not here.
And so the substitute teacher is wheeling the cart in.
Oh my God, this was when substitute teachers, like if they didn't have or like the teacher like fucked off and didn't have a lesson plan or something, like that's when we would totally watch these videos.
Absolutely. So yes, we are Adam, and to a lesser extent, Alan, talk a lot during our normal episodes about how a lot of the recollection comes from these cartoons that you would watch, which you have said were rolled out substitute teacher, panic moments. And were there non-religious things that were like go-tos in your upbringing?
Yeah, we also had like kind of American icons. So there was like a Benjamin Franklin one, Thomas,
like PBS things.
No, they were like the same Hanna-Barbera style.
Interesting.
I think they were a different company. I don't know if they were Hanna-Barbera, but they were animated and they were half-hour long. Mm-hmm. In retrospect, I wouldn't say straight up lied in them, but like Edison comes off real good in these things. And so like I grew up with this idea of Thomas Edison being this kind of like wonderful inventor who brought lights.
Aspire to be.
Right.
If only you could be as productive as a Thomas Edison.
Exactly. And like I in my mind, remember them testing different things for the filament. And like, it's a sequence where they go like, they're like test 172 and like they're going through and then everybody, it's like late at night and everybody's falling asleep. And suddenly like there's like a glow on the guy's face and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And then it's usually exploding and it doesn't explode. And people are like, what is it? And the guy's like, thread, common thread. And they're like, ah, and then it's this huge celebratory thing. And it wasn't until college where, I'm studying film and I find out about Georges Méliès and how like Edison literally stole all of his stuff and made like Georges Méliès penniless for like, and like the last half of Méliès's life was like destitute because of Thomas Edison. And then like the whole thing with Tesla and Westinghouse and like a horrible human. Yeah. Just a fucking terrible, like, it's like, if you have anything good about capitalism, it is not in Thomas Edison.
Sure. Yeah, I bet that is very true of a lot of those things that you would those icons that you would watch.
Right. But it was treated the same, like the Bible stories and these like icons of America.
Yeah. Our two that I remember constantly watching in a normal school. Yeah. Normal public school.
Woo! Different set of like mental and emotional damage.
Totally. Were one of them from this October Sky constantly.
Really?
Constant October Sky viewings.
That's such a weird.
Which is a weird one.
Also like glossing over some of the more issue prone parts of that, like glorifying Werner von Braun, like just
yep. And also the Red Badge of Courage for some reason. And I vividly remember I had a history teacher that was like the go-to, like repeatedly for, I think this was like middle school or high school. So it would be just for a year. We watched it multiple times and he would pause the movie whenever he had to cry, which was frequently.
No.
And it was like, I mean, looking back on it, it's like, okay, this guy was just like publicly working through some stuff.
Yeah.
And he would like try desperately to to show us like, okay, this is why I'm crying right now in this moment, and here's why it should resonate with you. And we were all just like,
personal film criticism.
Yeah. So those are the two that I remember. No cartoons.
It's sad.
Yeah.
I guess we're just talking about random shit that our teachers did, but because I went to a Christian high school, it couldn't have been Saving Private Ryan. It might have been Saving Private Ryan.
You need like a permission slip to watch that.
This
one.
is the thing.
Okay.
Is they sent home permission slips, and there was one kid whose parents wouldn't sign it. And this poor kid, like he was already kind of like a little socially awkward, and just like he was the kid that was having the hardest time in school.
Yes.
Just in my class.
Sure.
And he's a super nice kid, but just, he was different. And, of course, that's never a good thing. And I don't think he didn't deal with the intensity of bullying that I think he could have in other schools. To give, my school credit, the community was pretty caring.
Yeah.
But like of the scale of people, he was just the one who was taking the brunt of any sort of weirdness that was happening around school. And like him having to leave this, because it was a senior class, I think it was like actually civics or something like that.
Okay.
Him having to leave halfway through class, because we watched it over the course of a week. Like we broke it into chunks. So we do like half the class.
Just
he would
repeated
leave.
walks of shame.
Yes. And he was like, all right, dude, you got to, like teacher was like, all right, guy, you got to, go to the library.
Do you know? Oh yeah. Like he just had to go sit in the library,
I guess.
read,
Yeah.
play Kid Pix or something on the computer. Man.
I mean, Saving Private Ryan may or may not be appropriate for...
Right, yeah, that's the thing.
What's the Saving Private Ryan? It was a World War II...
I think I remember at least one viewing of Saving Private Ryan over the course of several days that was a permission slip situation.
That D-Day...
It was a big deal when it came out. Like that, that was a big fucking deal. Anyway, today we have watched The Greatest Adventure, Stories from the Bible, specifically Jonah. So for those of you not familiar, this is an animated direct-to-video series by Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess, about three adventurers.
It's two young archaeologists. I actually listened to the intro this time. So it's two young archaeologists and their nomadic friend Moki.
Their nomad friend Moki.
Was it
I think it's nomad friend Moki, yeah.
Who's inexplicably wearing a Detroit Tigers hat.
Is that what you think the D is? I was going to ask what you thought the D is.
It's a blue hat with a D, but the D is not stylized like the Detroit logo, so maybe not.
I was kind of wondering about the D.
Me too.
Let's talk about that in a bit. So these three young people who travel back in time.
It's two Aryan people and a generically Middle Eastern
terribly
person.
Generic. They travel back in time to ostensibly like watch biblical events taking place.
Correct.
I mean, okay, so the series was 13 episodes long.
Oh, really? That's it?
That's it. From 1985 to 1992 is when they were originally released.
So that was actually semi-current when I watched them. Like those were relatively new.
Fresh.
Huh.
And so we're doing the Jonah episode, which is actually... it's fitting since we're not doing anything in order on the podcast.
Right.
The Jonah episode is actually the last character episode in the series.
Really?
There are like a nativity and creation, things that are not character based that happen after this.
I like the idea of them going to creation and like existing in nothingness.
I'm excited to see how our friends Derek and Margot deal with this.
And Margot.
Yes. So you get this epic intro, which is fantastic.
I will say, I think, so we, just in kind of like full disclosure, we tried to do this at one point as a Patreon.
I've watched this 2.5 fucking times.
The first time all of the equipment's just crapping out and we just it's like, fuck it, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
And then the second time we got through it and we tried videoing it and there was a lot of things. It just didn't work.
A lot of downtime in these episodes. There are some fun things to talk about, but it is not exactly fun to sit through 5 to 7 minutes of just us being like,
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. But this intro is like, kind of stellar. Like I'm really sure it's what got me, like it started me on the whatever obsession with Indiana Jones I eventually would have.
Oh, there's so much Indiana Jones shit in here that totally informs your personality in that way.
100%.
But the intro is very cool. Like the title card and everything.
Great aesthetic.
Great aesthetic. it's also like the title card itself looks very, very much like the Adventure Time title card.
You're totally right.
And
it does.
I actually, like, seeing it this time, I was like, I wonder if they, I mean, who knows?
I mean, if that guy who I'm totally spacing on his name, but the guy who created Adventure Time, like
Pendleton Ward?
yes, because it's like a fucking weird name.
Yeah.
You're totally right. It's totally possible that he grew
That
up
like sword, like swing,
Yeah.
with the splaying out. Okay, so you get the epic intro, which is the same in every
Correct.
Thing, and it gives you the backstory, which is the two young archaeologists, which are Derek and Margot.
Derek and Margot.
They're on a dig, accompanied by, quote, their nomad friend Moki. Awful. They come across a door in an ancient ruin that turns out to be a portal through time.
And we should say, first of all, like the way that they get into this door is like they're just like poking at the
Yes.
ground, and suddenly like the ground kind of gives way.
Yeah.
And they very slowly for the ground giving way, or very quickly for quicksand. One of the two. I'm
Yeah.
not sure which. Descend into this like hole. There's also, I should say, before they do it, they're doing this massive pan. There's like 30 people working, and there's a Jeep.
Yes,
and
there are
there's
professionals working on this dig.
Right.
The kids are the ones that discover the like
correct, but also
the good shit.
nobody comes to find them.
Apparently
like
not.
They fall into a hole screaming, and like the 30 people around is like, they're fine.
Well, we don't really know what is happening on this timeline.
That is true. Also, do you know, like this? I know this is spoiling, but like they never come back.
No, I have a lot of questions.
Okay,
about this.
so but like they get into this thing, and this is also what's great about this is it's supposed to be like around the Holy Land. Everything in this cave or like burial chamber is Egyptian. There's like Horuses and like and hieroglyphics and
Like the most stereotypical,
completely. And they go to this, and they're apparently all able to read this hieroglyphs because they can read this thing like all through enter this door, travel through time.
Yes, no problem.
Yeah. And
Well, they are young archaeologists.
They are young, yeah.
So they go through this portal through time. Now, okay, so and here's my first of many questions.
Okay.
For you, the expert. Sorry, Alan's not here.
No.
You are now the expert.
Fair.
So we are starting not chronologically in the series. Is this ever expanded upon?
No.
Okay.
No. What you saw as the intro is literally the intro for every episode. They never, and they also don't show them going through time.
Uh-huh.
Like the doors open and they show like a blue swirly.
Yeah.
And then it fades to black.
Okay, so we're not worried about the mechanic of what
Nope.
happens. They're not worried apparently about where they are.
No.
Or coming back like throughout this entire thing, and I will bring this up repeatedly,
Please do.
I am sure. They're constantly saying like, well, we got to hit the road. To where? Where are you going?
For sure. Like,
What are you doing?
No, because like Derek is like every time there's a break in the conversation, he's like, we got to get on the road.
Yeah.
We got to go down the river.
Yes.
To what?
Yes.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but they're not freaked out at all either. It's not like we're just running hoping to find a portal somewhere. It's just like, yeah, we got to get in that boat.
I don't know if they're high or what, because all they seem to care about is getting food, and they don't
that.
seem super worried about it.
They definitely don't seem worried.
It's so crazy. Also, this is a weird thing that I noticed this time watching through. Have you noticed that almost nobody has the same color eyebrows as their hair?
I did not notice that.
So like Margot's
pay attention.
is the most dark. She's got like dark brown eyebrows and blonde hair.
Could be bleached.
Yes. So I give her that. But everybody else has a different color eyebrow than hair. It's wild.
Funny aesthetic choice.
Right? Huh. Like there's a weird animation thing that like the eyebrow and hair departments didn't talk to each other. Anyway.
Okay, so you get that rad title card, that epic intro.
Got to get somewhere.
And you immediately are thrown into this. So Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
Animation is excellent.
Yeah.
Albeit the movements seem like a little spooky sometimes.
Oh, for sure. I think it's cheap Hanna-Barbera, which is because wasn't Hanna-Barbera's whole thing is like they figured out how to turn around animation fast.
I don't know.
I think that's a thing. Like because they did like Yogi Bear and Muttley.
I don't think Muttley is a thing.
Maybe I'm just making shit up.
Your old pal Muttley.
Old pal Muttley. But no, I think their whole thing was that they could turn around animation quickly.
Right.
And that's why they became who they became.
So let's talk about Moki real quick.
Oh, okay.
So it's awful, right? It's an abomination like that. For it being,
Because I mean, it is racist as
yes,
fuck.
For it being 1985 through like whatever 1995 or what, you know.
Although, like, think about True Lies came out in what, 1995?
That's true.
They have in True Lies they have a Maori man playing a Middle Eastern, like the most ostentatious Middle Eastern terrorist.
Yeah.
When weirdly, like, it's not the most ostentatious thing in that movie. Like, there's a whole scene with a Harrier thing.
Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis doing a pole dance for her husband that she thinks is a spy. Like, there's a whole bunch of shit wrong with that movie. But there are certain ethnicities that American cinema forever was just fine with.
Yeah.
Like being crazy caricatures.
Sure. And you can even get into the like along the same timeline, like Simpsons with Apu,
Sure.
you know, like which really only recently became a thing.
Literally like within the last 10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question about the hat is, did they just put this hat on him to be like, it's not racist, he's from Detroit? Or like, you know what I mean?
Like a nomad from Detroit?
Well, I don't know. I don't get the hat. The hat bugs me.
He's
like,
got an
I want to know.
Yeah, no. Nothing seems, when you actually start looking at it, like for some reason, Moki, I think, is perfectly designed to be this thing that if you don't think about it at all, it just passes by. Like as a kid,
which is
not.
Well, okay.
You know, like it just did not register as being weird. But then you start looking at him, it's like, wait, hold on. You told me there's a nomad, but he's dressed all in different shades of blue.
He actually seems to be dressed the most normal for like a young person.
Correct, because like Derek looks like Han Solo. He's wearing a jacket that is like just cut underneath his nipples.
Yes.
Margot looks like a G.I. Joe character. Like
Yes,
she's got
totally.
like camo pants and like they don't make any sort of sense as humans.
No.
Okay, here's what they look like. They look like late 80s, early 90s sci-fi characters.
Sure.
You know,
Yes.
like that you'd see in a movie. But
Which they are kind of sci-fi characters.
I guess.
They've suddenly become that in this time traveling
that's fair.
world.
But Moki, looks sort of normal. He's wearing like blue shorts and a blue shirt and a blue overshirt.
He looks the most like, for the nomad character, he looks the most like your next door neighbor
from Detroit.
from Detroit, or what, you know.
He also has like, he has a very stereotyped accent. And
It's terrible.
I don't want to say like when we did this, I didn't look it up this time, but the last time we did this, I think we looked it up and I think it's voiced by a white person.
Oh, I would put all of my chips on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although I will say this episode not so much, but we the last time we looked it up, like there are some huge fucking.
We're going to
names.
get to some cool
Okay.
voices in both this episode and future ones.
Was there one in this one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You're going to be thrilled. So our heroes emerge on a hilltop and they decide to find a boat again to take somewhere.
Right. Which, because Moki, I also say like, here's more like Moki issues. They
Hashtag Moki issues.
hashtag Moki, because they repeatedly make him nefarious. They call him a scoundrel multiple times.
Well, yes.
And they're always pitching him as being both cheap and a liar and a thief and like,
Yep, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, like they're really leaning into like,
but he's also he's also kind of, I mean, he's throughout this episode anyway, and I presume the whole like he's kind of the jester, you know, he's like the bumbling like, ooh.
Which in and of itself I don't think is necessarily bad having a character play that like, but like there's something problematic when you're tying it to when he's the one non-white character.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it's
in a time travel series where most of these characters should probably not be white.
Correct. Right. I also, I assume we're just going to skip over the fact that everybody's speaking English.
Right. By the way, everybody speaks English in this Hanna-Barbera cartoon. So they decide to find a boat. They get fruit and bread. They're ready to set sail. And then, Moki gets in trouble with a townsperson named Micah.
Yep.
Who calls him a heathen.
Correct? Yes.
So that's part of this.
Another one.
Like, Moki then falls into the boat.
Yep.
He breaks it. And Derek calls him a real Jonah.
Right. Which I will say, story-wise, this was like the worst part for me, where I was going like, this is the worst fucking story writing I've ever seen. Because they're like, how the fuck do we get from A to B? And it's like, we'll call him a Jonah, and then that will lead to this thing. But like the way it comes off, it sounds super pejorative.
Yes. Like, so Margot informs us that apparently sailors call people who bring bad luck on a ship
A real Jonah.
Yes. Which I think is a spurious claim.
At best. So it's an outright. It could just be an outright lie.
But so as a little religious kid growing up, like, is that a thing? Like,
No,
did you
no.
call people a Jonah?
In
Like,
no
if
way.
they like fell down or like were bad luck?
No, I would have probably as a kid would have just chalked it up to something that either parents say and I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, this is a weird parent thing. But I actually vaguely remember this being a weird stickler. Like, no, we don't. Like, people don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not a thing.
Okay.
And just like blanket wise, we don't do that. Like, it's like, you're being a real Noah over there. Except for one. There is one. Doubting Thomas. We would call people a Doubting Thomas, which we haven't talked about.
Oh,
so
okay.
You don't know necessarily. Have you heard the phrase?
I've heard that phrase.
Okay.
I did not know it was biblical.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited to hear about it.
So that's the only one that I can think of that you would actually like.
Jesus complex.
Jesus complex. That's true. I'm trying to think. Make sure there's no others. I mean, there's other things that we would like. We might do analogies, but I don't think we'd ever like characterize somebody by it.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway.
So then this townsperson Micah is like, Jonah? Well, I know a Jonah.
I'm like, oh, you must be related to this Jonah.
Who just lives right over here.
Right.
And we meet old Jonah.
Yep.
Who is voiced by Alan Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Who was in the original Westworld.
Oh.
He is in a movie that I don't know, but I presume you do, called 9. It's just the number 9.
Right, with the guys in the little suits and
Yeah.
the like they're like
Animated thing.
yeah. There's somebody, either the director or the writer or somebody did it. Was I saw it a long time ago.
And my favorite, he is the voice of Skeletor on He-Man.
No.
Yeah. So old Jonah, aka Skeletor in hiding.
Maybe it's just pre-Skeletor. Like,
right?
Jonah dies, animated skeleton.
Yes.
Skeletor.
Yeah. A little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Jonah's dog named Samson.
Yep.
Isn't that cute? There will be a Samson episode of this.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that might be the one we do next. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the next thing that, like calling somebody a Jonah, I'm like, is this just a religious thing that I don't get, or is this not a thing, period?
There are a lot in this episode where that are just not things.
So
let's see.
So they're trying to figure out what the hell to do about Moki and how he's going to repay the boat or
he
whatever.
ate 5 fish dinners.
Right, yes.
And then didn't pay and said that he had to catch a boat and that the captain would pay for it.
Yes.
Anyway.
So there's lots of talk about debtor's prison.
Correct. No, not a thing.
Debtor's prison, like...
That's a modern thing. I mean, relatively modern.
Yeah. But like never prison. It's always referred to as debtor's prison, which I kept thinking of like as a kid, like that wouldn't even make sense, really.
I remember hearing about debtor's prison just like in like history.
Okay.
And I think I want to file it under whatever we're filing, like whatever the heading is for like quicksand and
Sure. Yeah.
like jetpacks, like these things that I assumed were real.
Okay, let me start a new document here. We have quicksand, jetpacks, and debtor's prison.
But
Okay.
like these things that I kind of thought all adults had some interaction with, or like flying cars, like that this was going to be a thing we were going to
flying
get to.
cars to the list.
And then like as I get older, going like, wait, there's no way. Like, why was this perpetuated? Like, this
Yeah.
was never a thing, and we're all just accepting these weird tropes. I mean, or like shooting locks off with guns, or like it's mostly film tropes, like these things that where you're just like you're accepting that this is a thing, or knocking people out. Like video games do it all the time, movies do it all the time. Like if you lose consciousness for even half a second, you have brain trauma. If you're out for 30 minutes, you are dead. Like you don't unless you're in a coma, losing consciousness for any extended period of time is not a thing that you recover from.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can put this on the list of. Debtor's prison. Nope.
List is strong. Right. Okay. Well, that's good. Good to know. I'm glad we're on the same page there.
How about the other things like quicksand?
Yeah. I mean,
Jetpacks.
I do like the list a lot. I like the list. So old Jonah invites them to stay. Which again, what are they going home? What like doesn't ask?
Right, because he mentions multiple times, like, I know you need to get on your way. Stay here the night. I'll make sure you get fed.
Also, you don't look like anybody from around here. And what the fuck is a vest?
Right, right. And like, there's also a lot of like Margot is just like walking around and nobody seems to be having a problem with.
Right.
This sounds like I'm endorsing misogyny, but no, like.
Well, endorsing misogyny, we have a nice little tie-in here because then we are introduced to the housekeeper.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Which is a weird thing to not just, I mean, okay.
I thought it was his wife for the first time.
Yes.
Yes. Initially.
And which I guess they don't want to like write in that Jonah has a wife, like in case there's like some biblical inaccuracy there. So instead he has a housekeeper that's roughly his age.
Correct.
That is just entirely subservient to him.
I'm going to put like, this is me adding to the record, but that I think it's Fuck Buddy.
Okay. Housekeeper / fuck buddy. Martha, voiced by Nancy DeSalle. She was in the In-Laws, horror movie called The Nurse, Alias, and Too Close for Comfort.
Wait, Alias, the TV show?
Yes.
The J.J. Abrams vehicle?
Yeah. And it is only now that these guys realize that it is the Jonah.
Right.
So they go to sleep. Oh, and we are met with one of my favorite cells of the animation, which
the sleeping thing,
which is Homeboy just fucking dead to the world on the bed,
and Moki looking like he had the worst night of his life.
Yes,
like fetal position.
Shit went down.
Like I think it even had shown like shaking.
I am excited. I hope that you had a chance to watch this and know what we're talking about. If you don't, we will definitely be posting a still of that because I fucking love that.
There's also some Christian bullshit in there too, because like it's the two dudes sharing the bed, and then like the woman is like way the fuck, like they're showing that no impropriety could ever have happened.
You're right. Yes, of course. Except with Moki.
Oh yeah, no. There's something happened to Moki. I don't know if it was that night, but at some point in his past,
right,
he has not had a good life.
So in the morning, it's only now that they realize that this is the Jonah. Which again, we are 8 episodes into this series, and they still don't know that there are Bible characters all around them.
Yeah.
Okay, so they ask him to tell his story, and
he's also supposedly writing his own book right now, which I don't think was a thing.
I was going to ask actually later if is that like the book of Jonah?
There is yes.
Okay, so is that what he's supposedly writing?
Correct. But I don't think it's canonical that he wrote it.
Okay. So they ask him to tell his story. And actually, it's funny because I'm actually more interested in the meta of this than I am the actual story.
For sure.
Like now it gets kind of boring.
No. The story part of it, like the only things that I had to really comment on were like the things that they chose to be very specifically accurate on.
Yes.
Which we'll get to because most of them are later. But no, like the meta is really the more interesting. Like
lots of fun stuff to dissect.
How long did it take to break this story? An afternoon,
right?
Because there are mile wide holes in it, as well as like super problematic shit.
Yeah, totally. So we get a flashback. We're introduced to young Jonah, also voiced by.
Oh no! Also, extremely bad hair to eyebrow color ratio.
Oh, okay. So young Jonah, voiced by Christopher Tabori, who did voices on Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh fuck!
He directed some ABC after school specials, and he was also the voice of Mercer in the 1987 G.I. Joe movie.
Really?
Yeah. God talks to Jonah. God, voiced by Tony J.
It's a good God voice.
Who is Frollo in Hunchback.
Oh.
He's also in Time Bandits. He's also...
Did he play God in Time Bandits?
I don't know, actually. Voice in Beauty and the Beast, and he's in Twins.
These are not small actors.
No, Tony J is like
they're working actors.
Thing. Like people, there are Tony J stans.
I will say, like, God's voice in this is epic as fuck.
Real good.
Yeah.
And it is not the same God voice that we will hear other times in the series.
Really?
He's not always God.
God changes his voice?
Yeah.
All right.
God tells him about Nineveh, which is maybe my favorite collage of
I do want to talk about yes.
So we see...
Remember that children are watching this.
Right.
Just
yes. So we see scenes of how
sinfulness.
awful Nineveh is. So there's gambling, there's drinking,
Cockfighting.
there's cockfighting. Not in this montage. Later,
is that
we get
later?
that, yeah.
Okay.
So there's lots of liquid being poured down throats, which I was like, oh shit, this is where Adam got the oil thing.
Oh.
For some reason, like it's a lustful like alcohol, but it's
supposed
like
to be wine.
barrels being poured down.
Correct.
people's
They're
throats.
waterboarding people with wine.
Yes.
And like they'll start at their mouth and then like just drain it down their body.
Yep, they do a whole little luge.
And women are in full on like G-strings,
Yes.
belly dancing / pole dancing.
A very I Dream of Jeannie
Yes.
stereotype outfits.
Yes. So like translucent like genie pants with a G-string and like a bikini top.
Yeah.
And then like translucent and they've got crazy long hair. Like it's and like crazy voluptuousness. Like
Lots of risque dancing. There is also like they cut away from it really, really fast. But there's like I think what is a wet T-shirt contest happening.
where they're just pouring liquid over people?
No, like so one of the like risque dancing ladies is dancing, and then somebody like throws a cauldron of water like at her chest, and then it cuts.
No, I missed that.
Yeah, it's like right at the end.
That is stellar.
Yeah. So again, children are watching this.
As a kid, like I knew that. Well, here's what it was like in my mind. Like this was projecting, like, oh, this is displaying what sinful humans do, and I didn't register it beyond. Like, it's kind of funny because like I'm actually able to connect this back, and now watching this as an adult, like, what the fuck was being shown to kids? But what I think the funny part about it is like as a kid, it didn't register to me as being sinful. I mean, it did. No, that's not like being wrong. Like what I was watching was not damaging to me, at least I think.
Sure.
It also didn't like necessarily awaken anything in me. I mean, maybe the oil thing, but like it wasn't like it's like, oh fuck, I need to go like to a strip club now.
Yeah. Mother, get me to Nineveh.
Yes, I need to go to Nineveh. I do want to get to the next montage, or not? It's
we'll
it's when
get
he's
there.
walking through because those are
Yeah. We get this really good line from young Jonah, or no, it's from old Jonah.
okay.
He's voicing his story, and
Yeah, he's kinda narrating.
He has also like a really good voice.
Yes.
Like a lot of gravitas, but he does this really whiny line that I love, which is, "I didn't want to go to Nineveh."
I do remember that.
And then we also get the he then goes and finds a ship.
Yep.
And we get what is like maybe the adult joke of this episode, which is one of the sailors on the ship says, "He looks as though he's running away from someone," and then the other one said, "Probably his wife."
Right.
Which again, it's like pre Toy Story.
Yeah. No, it's totally a like just
And then young Jonah says, "I was running away from God."
Yeah.
So we get The Storm.
Yep.
Which has a really good score. And I had a hard time finding out any information about like if they pulled this stuff in, if it was scored for the series.
I mean, the intro has an insanely good, like very Indiana like Robin Williams. Oh fuck, what is the guy's name? John Williams.
Yeah.
Wow. Like very like epic. The scoring is fantastic on this.
Yes.
Although I feel like this was the time too when like that was not uncommon. Like people would just like Hollywood had orchestras.
Yeah. You need to do that. There's just an orchestra sitting in the studio somewhere.
Right.
And you just say,
I mean, Family Guy
"We got
does
a storm
it.
coming up."
Family Guy still does it. So I mean, it can happen.
Yeah.
But I think you just like most people just
It definitely adds something. Like
for sure.
I think the animation style and the music are really like truly what keep this from being like an absolutely unbearable watch.
Correct.
Like the story is just like, whew.
Oh, it's bad.
But it is as an adult that doesn't give a shit. it's still easy enough to get through because of those things.
Yeah.
It's also easy to get through because we, with the sailors, get our first appearance of the Devo hats, which are delightful.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And carried on through, apparently just like it's a thing.
Suddenly it's a
Across-
thing. The sailor has like your classic red Devo hat, and
Yes.
then we arrive.
purple
Everybody's
Devo.
got Devo hats, and they're all different colors.
Yeah, I do like there was some design put into like we need Jonah to look like down homey and kind of not threadbare but like simple.
Yeah.
And everybody else needs to like in contrast has to be so ostentatious and they have
Metropolitan.
But like I mean, we'll get to it, but like when the king disrobes to be like to get all like in sackcloth and ashes, like the amount of time it takes him to like remove all these things made me laugh. Almost, like, it was fantastic.
So we get the great fish,
and they clarify big fish, not a whale.
They're like really stern about it.
Yes, not a whale.
Yeah. The great fish, which they also mention God created
for this specific thing.
Which
I don't think is there. I think it's just there is a great fish. I don't think it's like. But anyway,
great fish looks rad.
Yeah,
love the animation of the great
carp.
fish.
It looks like kind of like a big carp.
And so then it flashes forward to them talking in whatever present day about the fish.
Right.
And they go into like a brief moment of the science of how he could have survived in the fish.
Right. Well, because it starts with Moki going, and then you died?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm telling the story.
And so we get this like brief blip that was probably my most like cringy moment of the whole thing, where it was, the like, well, nothing is impossible because God made it and there was air in there, you idiot. And also it was not a whale.
Right. But I will say the animation of Jonah in the fish, like with the outline, the black,
really
with that like kind of weird.
It is nice looking.
It's kind of a cool, it works. I also like that there's a ridiculous amount of sea life that the fish is going by.
A lot.
And that aren't in the same biomes.
Right. Well, yeah.
It's like 2 sperm whales and like a giant octopus.
They're not worried about the geography of this at all. And so then now we get the second montage of Nineveh.
Him arriving in Nineveh.
Which is, there's some reused footage.
Correct.
But there is additional, including the chicken fight you mentioned. There is also like a drunk driving thing.
Yes.
Like there are people slamming things of wine on a chariot, and then like, the horse is like grinning wildly.
Eyes are huge. No, it's wonderful. And like, it's just pure chaos.
And more Devo hats. And we are then shortly introduced to the king and his 3 stooges.
Yeah. Which, by the way, when they did the Stooges thing, did you think that the fat guy was the king? And then they suddenly like he goes like, we should tell the king. Or like, oh, you're not the king?
Totally.
Okay.
Yes.
It's like 3 guys. It's 4 guys, 3 of who are dressed kind of identically, and then one guy who's like more elaborate. Anyway, it was a weird.
And they all look like Marvel supervillains.
Correct.
Like there's a very like Magneto-esque character. There's a very Juggernaut looking character.
All Caucasian. Everybody in this thing is Caucasian. Except for Moki. Moki's the only non-Caucasian.
We will let you know when we see anybody who is not Caucasian. So then the 3 Stooges go into the king. The king, Peter Cullen, who is the voice of Optimus Prime. Yeah.
He's like, Autobots, put on your sackcloth and ashes.
Right. And then legitimately it's so boring. Like, this is about, I think, the moment in
they ran out of money.
Our first, that could be. This is like the first time I think like in our attempt at doing like a stream of this.
Yeah.
Where it was
all
just
like, oh God,
there's just nothing
because the gourd
going on.
That gourd sequence, like they go for like seconds of the same frame dissolving into the next frame for both how the gourd grows, and then the sequence of him going to sleep.
Yes.
And there's no talk, there's no narration.
Yeah.
It's just like this like frame, hold for a few seconds, fade to the next frame, hold for a few seconds, next frame. Like, did they literally run out of money?
They forgot to animate the thing. Yeah, we just have these stills.
Right.
And I think that's why it's actually really jarring and nice when you get to see the worms.
Yeah.
The worm footage is good. Like suddenly you're back in.
That's what happened. They spent all their time on the worms. Like, I have 3 days and I have to put out the rest of this.
Yeah. So, and then that's basically it. Like, so then it cuts back to what I keep calling present day. I don't know what to call this.
Yeah.
Weird timeline.
Present day works.
And they thank old Jonah for his story. And, it's lots of like, we got to get back on that road
to go
to where? And then it ends with this weird thing of lots of like hemming, hawing, shrugging, and boys will be boysing.
That I don't know why, because like it wasn't a necessarily bad thing, but like ending with her saying boys will be boys
creeped the shit out of me.
Me too. Like it was like, oh
yeah,
oh
like,
that's bad.
It's a bad final message.
Yes.
Like
okay, so here's what happened. They're leaving. And Jonah gave them a bag of food because that was the whole thing keeping them from going wherever the fuck they're going. And they're partway down the road and the bag starts moving. And
it's Samson.
It's Samson, the puppy, who had gotten into the bag and eaten all the food somehow.
Right.
And then they're like, Samson, you should go back. And so Samson runs off. And then Moki goes, I know where we can get free fish dinners. And that's another time that Derek goes like, oh, you scoundrel. And then starts chasing him, presumably to beat the shit out of him.
Absolutely.
And that's when it cuts to Margot going, Matt, boys will be boys.
Yeah, which as a final message, truly to me was jarring.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of, even like in the Jonah thing, there's a lot of like guys being like, well, whatever.
Right.
And to have that be the takeaway message of Jonah, like the story of Jonah is like, I don't know that that's the moral here.
Right.
Anyway.
They also did try to spin like, because the end of the real story like is not really resolved. Like Jonah isn't necessarily happy. He's pissed at God. Like the whole thing happens,
right, yeah.
And then it just kind of ends, which is right. But like old Jonah kind of puts this like pin in it. It goes like, I was basically wrong for questioning God, and then like we just move on from the story.
Yeah,
which is kind of weird because like they're doing that like pattern thing in stories where, you know, when you feel like the way the word choice and the inflection of the voice like indicates end of story, and it indicates like denouement, and we're out of the like we're past the climax and we're into it, but there really isn't one,
right?
And it's very strange because you're looking for some sort of resolution, and it puts to me a lot of the weight just gets shoved onto that boys will be boys, and you're going, oh yeah, this is a fucking like ugly.
It should have ended with old Jonah putting the pin on it or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So
and they still are stuck there. Never got back.
Right. Which I don't know. Maybe on the last episode they go home. We'll see. There's no great reviews for this episode.
This might be it.
Yes,
because we've been going for about a little over 40 minutes.
I think we have
talked twice as much about this thing as it is to watch it.
Mostly it's people saying that it's not as good as the Beginner's Bible cartoons.
Oh. So
do you know those?
No.
Okay. And I guess I want to end with my favorite review that I found, which is, I like Jonah, but I don't get it why those 3 person are in it. They all ruin the show because in the Bible it does not say anything about they.
That's the entire conceit of the whole thing. At what point did they go like, that didn't happen?
I just like the idea that somebody's like furiously flipping through a Bible like, Margot, I don't,
so good.
Anyways.
So good.
So that does it.
You should, by the way, you should watch it.
You should watch it. It's, look on YouTube for it.
Yeah, it's all of these are on YouTube. Don't give anybody money for these.
Yeah. So for the next couple of weeks at least, Alan is going to be on paternity leave, unpaid, and so Adam and I are gonna do these weird little things on these cartoons. If you want to watch before next week, the next one that we're going to do is the Samson cartoon.
Excellent. Yeah, and we may do a couple of other things, if not just the animation's easy because we had talked about bringing in guests and different things like that, but with this whole virus thing going on, it's a little difficult to pull people in. So
early on, Adam and I decided that we were containment buddies. So
we were basically it was Alan, and he's still part of our group, but he's no longer here.
Okay, so
you made it sound like he's gone. He's not dead.
He's just fine.
Yes, and I should say I made jokes. Mama's good too. Mom's good. Baby's good. Dad's good. Everybody's good.
Everybody's good. Except for that scoundrel Moki.
Fuck. Hey, thank you so much for listening. You can follow us at KJVPod on both Twitter and Instagram to keep up with what we're doing. This week, with COVID-19 keeping us all indoors, we'd really appreciate it if you could go out and support, or don't go out, actually, just go out online and support independent artists. Nick and Evie own a record store here in town called The Business. If you're wanting to help artists out and or get some great vinyl, The Business has got you covered. They distribute tons of independent bands and labels, so you'd be supporting artists directly and not some giant record company. You can find them online at www.thebusinessanacortes.com. You can also follow Nick on Twitter at thebusinessrex, R-E-C-S. And he's funny and also got independent music news and shit. Right?
Oh, shucks.
Yeah. Don't follow me. I'm not funny. Thanks to Mascaras and Resurrection Records.
If you want to hear some political rants, though.
Oh, God.
At Coffee Postal, that shit.
It's bad. Thanks to Mascaras and Resurrection Records for the use of our theme song, Kexari, off the album El Moran. And this week's Resurrection Records artist is Kim Gray, also available at The Business. So go check that shit out. You can find these songs, stickers we have for sale, our Patreon links, everything on our website, kingjamesvirgin.com.
Until next week, thank you for listening. Remember, boys will be boys. And I want to know, this is another action item.
Ooh.
I want to know what you watched when you were a kid when the substitute teacher rolled in the cart.
Yeah.
I want to know what the thing, like, repeatedly. I feel like everybody has a thing that you viewed, let's say, 3 or more times growing up in school. Just like,
oh, totally,
was applicable to any class, overarching. I would love to know. That's it.
Tweet us at KJVPod or email us dearjesus@kingjamesvirgin.com.
Anything.
And I guess boys will be boys.
Gross. Bye.
Change your mind in Arizona, fresh faced and stone. Man, did I lose my mind at that freaky late night show? Perfume ghosts, how long have I known ya? Catch me doing something wrong. I
by Sonic Bazaar.